Hello, beautiful people. My name is Emma.
And I'm MC.
And we are your hosts of the G Forces podcast. So, this upcoming weekend is the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And this is us getting ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one that's like steeped in history just yet. It's only been around since 2021. So, yeah, just kind of getting ready for something new. Going over some random things.
Very random.
What are you going over,
I'm talking about a bunch of the news headlines that have popped up since Bahrain.
Okay, cool.
And like stuff that's pertaining to Saudi Arabia. And then what are you talking about?
I am talking about the first Saudi Arabian female driver. So I'm going to go over her career a little bit. And honestly, probably should have highlighted her last year, but, you know, we're doing it this year. And that's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
What did you do last year?
Did we do a Get Ready for Saudi?
Yeah, because I looked back and I also did a update on the news.
I don't remember what I did.
I can't remember.
Did I do like a history?
You talked about Fred Besser.
Yeah. That's when we were doing. Okay, yeah, we were doing team principles.
Yeah, if you guys have noticed, some of these races where they're like newer races, either we don't do a Get Ready episode because we don't have anything to talk about, or we tend to like find stuff from other places to go over. So like her going over Fred Vasseur last year for Saudi Arabia. There's been some races where like I talked about a race that happened in a completely different country that doesn't exist anymore, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's funny because when I was doing research earlier, I like literally Googled, I was like, did the Saudi GP take over? Like, did it replace anything? And it was at a point in the schedule where it didn't replace anything, it was just added. So it was like, it was just an additional one.
Well, and they do, so the circuit that we know today as Saudi is the Jeddah Corniche circuit, but they are working on building another circuit called the like Qiddiya one. I'm probably pronouncing that completely wrong. But they are working on building that, which I think is planned to be finished within the next couple of years, and it literally looks like something from Mario Kart, to be honest. In like a good way.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many other tracks that are still around that are just never used, in my opinion. But
yeah,
you know. But then also, I complain about the historical races, so I guess like I'll never be happy.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Environmentally, I'm like.
No, I have issues with building more sports complexes. Like, whenever a country hosts the Olympics, do we really have to build more sport complexes in that country? Why don't we reuse stuff that we already have?
Well,
like the World Cup up next year is they're using stadiums that we already have.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we're going to get into it.
All right, so the driver we're going over this week is Reema Juffali. So Reema was the 2024 wildcard for F1 Academy for the Saudi race last year. But in my opinion, there's just not enough focus on how many barriers this woman's broken down to achieve, her dreams of being a driver. So, Reema was born on January 18th, 1992 in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. So, we're in her hometown. There was she has her own website, and then there was last year, the New York Times did a pretty cool expose on her.
Oh, cool.
And so a lot of that has come from this, because she kind of talks about, how she got into it. But according to the article, she had not really paid much attention to motorsports growing up. And for those that don't know and assume a lot of things, prior to 2018, women could not drive in Saudi Arabia. So now today, women can drive. It's legal.
There was a whole movement that she was a part of.
Yeah. In 2010, Reema moved to the U.S. and began studying at Northeastern in Boston.
Oh, no way.
Which is where she kind of started to fall in love with motorsports. She attributes her...
Random place to fall in love with motorsports.
Well, I think it's probably just like she was watching it, different world, you know. She attributes her aha moment around her love for motorsports to like the Le Mans races in the early 2010s when she was in college, stating, "Wait, if they can do it, then why am I not thinking at that level?" She would go on to have a track day in her sister's Mini Cooper, which really solidified that this was where she wanted to be, and I just kind of thought that was like
In a mini
in
coupe.
a Mini Coupe. Um, in 2014, she graduated from college and began to figure out how to get her racing license while she was in the US, which was a lot more complicated than she thought it was going to be. So I think this kind of was something that was always at the forefront of her mind, but in her like professional life, it kind of got put on the back burner. And so after college, she would do a handful of finance internships, eventually landing in the UK, which was shockingly easier to get her license in than the US.
Interesting.
Unfortunately, again, like this process just kind of got like hung
License
up.
or racing license?
Racing license.
Okay.
Yeah, racing license, sorry. From what I was reading, apparently back then she called the Saudi Federation, their drivers federation, and they gave her the all clear to get her racing license in the UK.
Oh, interesting.
Uh and then in 2017, there were talks about Saudi Arabia lifting the ban on women driving, and she took this as an opportunity to pursue racing once again, kind of a part of that movement that Emma spoke about. Um, that same year, through a mutual connection, she was able to speak with someone that we all know, Susie Wolf, and get some advice on racing. After this conversation, Rima went to the Winfield Racing School in the south of France, and according to like one of the articles, like a few months later, she ended up sending like a photo of herself to Susie, um, basically being like, "I did it. Like, look at what I did."
Oh, that's so cool.
In the New York Times article, it seemed like Susie Wolf has very much been like a mentor to her. I mean, I don't even know if we've ever really done a deep dive into Susie's career.
I don't think we have.
And I think it's something that you'll see. I mean, a lot of women will agree, like, when you're in a field and there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of people that look like you, or there's not a lot of, women in the room with you, you kind of like, you find your people.
Yeah.
And to see and to understand that was, really, like, is really nice. In 2018, at 26 years old, Reema would become the first Saudi Arabian female racing driver. Her debut competitions were the TRD 86 Cup as well as the MRF Challenge. And the MRF Challenge, I looked into both of these. TRD 86 was, I think it's like closed racing. And then the MRF Challenge is an open wheel racing. It was an open wheel racing based out of India. And when I was looking at the information about it, there's a few names that were in the MRF Challenge. So Mick Schumacher did
No way.
a season in there, and then Jamie Chadwick was
Okay.
also, I think she was the winner in the 2018-2019
Jamie
season.
Chadwick has won so much.
Yeah, and just for a little background from what I was reading, this was very much like the drivers could like, you didn't have to have a whole team with you. Like, you basically
Okay.
bought the seat. So like you bought the like seat to drive, and then everything was figured out by like the
Oh, that's great.
the official. So it just gave people an opportunity that, they didn't have. It doesn't exist anymore. I think the last year it ran was like 2023. In 2019, she would make the move to the F4 British Championships, finishing 13th in her first season. In 2021, she would move on to the GB3 Championship. And then in 2022, she did something again, pioneering, breaking those barriers. Reema began building her own team, FIBA Motorsport. They were able to secure a second place finish in the Pro-Am class of the International GT Open. And this was something that, like, not only did she want, from what I was reading, not only did she want, like, her own team, but she also wanted a Saudi Arabian team. She wanted that representation because there isn't a lot. And I think it was, like, a conversation she had with her parents, and she was like, you know what? Like, why not?
Yeah.
So in 2023, during the GT World Challenge Europe, she continued to make history by being the first female racing driver to secure pole position for the Spring Cup. And then in 2024, she was the wild card for the Saudi Arabian F1 Academy race, while also competing in distance racing that year.
I can't remember how she did in F1 Academy. I think
Not that
she like
great.
crashed or like
Mm-hmm.
it was just bad.
She did 13th in the first race, and then she retired the second race.
Yeah,
But
unlucky.
I do feel like, unfortunately, the wild cards, like, kind of always get, like,
It just feels like
a
it always
shit end of the
happens.
stick. Yeah, like, it feels like I love that they put representation of that country into the seats, but sometimes it's kind of like, is it just, like, a rush that they're, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, do they
Yeah.
have the preparation? But then I also don't know in the background, like, what goes on, how long they've known that they'll be the wild card. But yeah. These days it looks like she's racing with Blackthorn AM earlier this year. And it looks like she's just doing a lot of GT racing, focusing on endurance.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not a very long career, but she's also young and just starting. I mean, she's only been, competing for a
For
handful of
less than a
years.
decade.
And then just for some background, this year's wild card for Saudi Arabia is Farah Al Youssef. And she's had a significantly shorter career. So I think she was like in karting in 2022.
She did really well in karting, right?
She did really, really well. I don't know if she won her region or she placed high, but she's also 22, whereas Reema is 30. She was born in 92, so she's 33.
Oh my gosh, our brother's gonna be 33 this year.
Yeah. But it was also like reading about Reema, the craziest thing too for me, and it was kind of touched upon a little bit in the New York Times article. And this is kind of something we talked about last year when we were going over the team principles last season, and kind of just being like, where can anyone listening, can they achieve this? And I think Reema's kind of like the perfect example of like,
I
it
think it is
doesn't
achievable.
matter what age you are, it's achievable.
Yeah.
If you have this drive. And it's funny because I cannot for the life of me remember the name of this initiative, but David Coulthard is currently backing an initiative to kind of push young female drivers into open wheel racing and to give them, like, they basically want to, he's working with a team and a company that they basically, everything that the impression that they're giving is they want to be the ones to have the first F1 female driver. And so, like, it's achievable. Don't worry about how old you are. I mean, obviously, if you're like 70,
Well, I find it
but
interesting that they did make her the wild card last year. I think it was probably because of all the things that she's accomplished.
yeah.
Because F1 Academy rules are like, I think the age limit is 25.
Yeah, and she was 32, 31.
Yeah, and I remember seeing how much older she was than everybody else and being a little confused. But I'm guessing like the wild card entry has different rules, so they probably don't have to abide by the age rules.
That maybe they looked at the length of her career. Maybe they took into consideration the fact that like she couldn't have driven any earlier
Well,
than
yeah, that's the
2018
thing.
legally. So yeah, it's it's a really cool career to see because she achieved something past kind of the prime that a lot of people are doing it.
Yeah. One thing I have noticed in a lot of like female motorsport careers is that often they try to do like open wheel racing
Mm-hmm.
and then they don't get the funding that they need. Even F1 Academy graduates are not getting the funding that they need post F1 Academy. And then they're able to, though, join teams in like GT stuff or like Le Mans stuff. And so, like, I feel like we see a lot more women in doing endurance racing as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to open wheel racing. And I don't know what why we're seeing a lot more money put into that rather than into open wheel racing, because like you people like the Iron Dames, like who have won their class in Le Mans before.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have very successful female drivers in other motorsports. I don't know why it's taking so long for open wheel racing.
Well, I also, and I'm not as familiar with endurance racing, but the few times that I've looked, the age range is crazy.
Oh, it's all over the
It's all
place.
over the place. Whereas, like, F1 specifically, because IndyCar has guys all over the chart
Yeah.
in terms of age. F1, I mean, yeah, we have Fernando and Lewis, but like the majority of the guys are in their younger 20s.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if it's just the limitation of 20 spots. Um I also just feel like F1 is just late to the game when it comes to female drivers. Like I mean, we're still having issues, you know?
Yeah.
So, it's tough. But listen, there are women like we just talked about that are breaking through barriers and accomplishing things that, 10 years ago weren't achievable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's my driver of the day.
Cool. Love hearing about women doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
Except for 11 minutes in space.
What a wonderful world.
Oh, God. Interesting choice for free time. Anyways, I am going to get into some headlines that are going on right now in F1 motorsport world. So, yeah. Alrighty. My notes are kind of like all over the place for these headlines because there's a few.
I
But
didn't even know there were headlines.
it's just more like what's going on really right now. So my first one is why George wasn't penalized in Bahrain.
Oh, I don't know about this one. I'm curious.
So there's actually a precedent that had been set, and that's partially why he wasn't penalized. So these are some quotes, but I'm going to try to break it up a little bit, throw in my own words. So at the time when George was experiencing the brake-by-wire issue and other electronic issues, as we said last weekend, or this past weekend, not last week. Anyways, he was advised to use an auxiliary button in the cockpit, which serves as a backup radio button, but also serves as a manual DRS activation button. Why do they have a button that has
Drastically different roles.
roles? I don't know why. That is a serious problem. Make that make sense to me. I don't know why. But essentially, on the straight between turn 10 and 11, he tried to radio the team using that button because everything wasn't working correctly.
Okay.
But instead, because this button has two roles, activated DRS accidentally. The DRS was activated for a distance of 37 meters on a straight of approximately 700 meters, so basically nothing. Whilst he gained...
Which was probably why he was trying to cover it up so much in that post-race interview.
I'm sorry, Lando was like, I saw it.
Where he was like, yeah, it was open for like, I didn't even get an advantage.
Well, he did gain 0.02 seconds, but he gave up 0.28 seconds at the next corner to compensate. This was confirmed by telemetry. So he didn't really actually gain anything from this. In fact, he actually lost time from it. So, yeah. The precedent that had been set. So in Baku in 2018, when Checo was with Racing Point, Lance Stroll was with Williams, Kevin Magnussen was with Haas. They all incorrectly activated the DRS button following issues with the detection zones, forcing drivers to operate the system manually. All three drivers were cleared at the time, with Checo keeping his podium spot as a result. So because the consistency, who knew that the FIA could do that?
Guys,
I'm
you're
genuinely
learning.
shocked. Yeah, it's quite surprising that they were capable of doing that.
And look at that, Checo saving the day again.
True. I did see someone. Well, I'll talk about this in a second. But I do have to say, Why do you have a button with 2 rolls?
Yeah, can someone that works on steering wheels for F1, because I know you guys all watch
I,
this,
actually wanna know
is it
why.
merely because this happens so infrequently, or is it because you don't, yeah,
It doesn't
why?
make any sense to me.
Yeah. Crazy.
You basically are creating, like a 50% chance of this problem occurring.
I, I just, well, again, the thing is that, like, it's a button that I guess you only use if everything's starting to fail.
Yeah, which I assume happens very rarely. I mean, in
Yeah.
our one in a
Mm,
almost 1.75 seasons that we've watched now,
yeah.
we haven't seen this problem before, but it's a little weird.
Yeah, someone explained to us why one button has two
If we ever have the
jobs.
opportunity to interview somebody who works on the steering wheel,
Or a driver, or just anyone in
yeah,
F1.
really, we will be asking this question
Yeah.
because I need to know the answer.
Yeah.
On to the next headline. Um, okay. So, let me see which one I want to talk about next. Okay. Sauber is quite literally confused as to how Hulk's skid block was too worn down.
It touched the ground, guys. It
Okay.
scraped.
So, yes, but they did. It's not like when in what was it? When Lewis earlier this season had this problem and it was because he did like a one stop or something
Mhm.
or whatever. And so he was going to get worn down a bit more. I can't
Okay.
remember what it was. This they followed the plan exactly how it was expected, and all of the calculations that were made during free practice sessions should have worked properly. They worked for Gabriel's, so they should have worked for Hulk's. And so they're like, we actually don't know why this happened.
Maybe it's a lemon.
And they're like, this won't be happening again, even though we don't know why it happened. I'm like, y'all should investigate this because how can you prevent it from happening if you don't know what caused this?
I wonder if it was like something is like so simple as like a manufacturer error.
Well, so Hulk's setup, I believe, was different than Bortoletto's. So I think that he had a higher downforce setup than Bortoletto's. And so therefore, he had more likelihood of dragging on the ground. But they probably knew, they obviously, as a team, they knew that. And so they were gonna, what's the word? I can't think of the word.
I don't know what word you're trying to grasp for.
Oh my gosh.
They tried to avoid. They tried to.
Well, they obviously would have added that into their calculation, knowing that he had a more downforce setup.
Yeah, I don't know how one can't figure that out with how much data they all receive.
Do you ever think that sometimes they're looking at too much data, where
Oh yeah.
their brains are like almost a little confused by it sometimes because they're like, "Whoa, this is a lot."
Well, and then you start to realize like the hundreds of employees that they have
I
back
mean,
at
you
the
have to
factory
have 100.
reading
You
the
have
data
to.
in live time. So,
Looking at an Excel spreadsheet all day hurts my brain. Imagine having the pressure of winning a race on it.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars is decision.
Well, I hope Sauber can figure that one out.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what they have to say if they ever address this again.
Yeah, I feel like this is gonna be like
They will forget about this and never speak about it
Fernando's
again.
steering wheel. We'll never find out what happened.
Yeah. Well, on Fernando, we're going to talk about Aston Martin now.
Hey.
Why are they struggling so much? This is a great question, actually, and there's an article all about it. Basically, I can't sometimes with F1. Okay,
Oh no.
so
Where's this article from?
this is all from motorsport.com.
Okay.
So Mike Crack basically said, which also they were interviewing Mike Crack, and I'm like, isn't he not the team principal anymore?
No, but he's head of something important. He's head of like race strategy or engineering or
I
something.
have
Like
no
he
idea.
moved.
He moved to a more technical job, I think,
Yeah.
rather than managerial.
Yeah.
So he said we are basically they're in a bit of a special case because, um, they're changing engine manufacturer, as we know, next year to Honda. And because of that, they have to make their own gearbox. So, um, basically, since the team's existence in 2009, when they were Force India, they have had a customer relationship with Mercedes. And so they've been getting their power units and their gearboxes from Mercedes this entire time. And so they have to dedicate these resources. Remember the budget cap. They have to dedicate resources to building a new gearbox, even right now.
Okay.
And so it's taking money away from development for even just this current car.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but like I feel like other teams have done this and it wasn't like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as the team moves away from Mercedes in 2026, they're becoming responsible for making their gearboxes so that it pairs with the new Honda powertrain and that it will run in the upcoming season. And as I was reading this, my dumbass, I was like, well, why can't they just use the Mercedes gearbox? Obviously, they can't use the Mercedes gearbox with a different power unit.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's built specifically for the Mercedes
power
power unit. Because they want you to buy
they want the whole package, not just, you can't just
everything or nothing.
Yeah.
Basically. So developing these components is a huge undertaking, obviously. And so it will run during the upcoming season, and developing these components is just a huge undertaking for the team. And this is the quote that kind of threw me off. I was like, huh? So Mike Crack said, we have the 2026 regulations coming. We have a couple of more races with these regulations, and it doesn't help to stir in that now and to find out what went right and what went wrong. So basically, he said, fuck 2025. We don't care what's going right and what's going wrong, and all that matters is 2026.
I mean, there were a few teams that took that perspective, but not so literally.
No, but he's taking it literally, I think. Like Williams was definitely like 2026 is our year that we're aiming to develop our car for. But they're still like bringing upgrades and trying to figure out what's wrong with the car and whatnot. Meanwhile, they're just like, we don't have the time to figure out what's going wrong. Like, and what's going right. We don't care for 2025. 2026 is all that matters.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because I'm curious if Adrian Newey works on any of those components. Like, if he is truly just designing the body and the aerodynamic and all that of the car. Like,
I have no idea.
I have no idea the parameters of his, like, design. But
I mean, I assume Red Bull had to create a gearbox to work with Honda, so I would imagine that Adrian Newey at least knows how to do that.
Yeah. I don't know. Guess best of luck to him.
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting situation. I've heard some people say that this is the nail in the coffin of Fernando Alonso's career, and I would like to correct you on all of that.
Whoa. That's aggressive.
Fernando is a rookie, okay? You guys need to give him a break.
I also feel like 2026 is going to be the season that we see, like, a changing of the guards. I think we're going to see the guys like Fernando. Honestly, I don't know Lewis, but like I think we're going to see a bunch of guys that have been on the grid for a really long time just do a season of 2026 regulations and then
potentially leave.
Yeah.
Maybe even into 2027. 2028 could be the year where we have like a whole new grid.
Yeah. I just feel like we've had certain faces around for a very long time.
I do think that people like Charles and Carlos and Pierre and all of them, I do think that those guys are going to be like Lewis.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Not in the sense where, like, I need my 8th world championship.
No, they're just never going to stop.
They're never going to get a champ. I'm sorry to say it right now. They're never going to get a championship. And they will not retire because they are convinced that they will get one day.
Yeah. But then also, like, look at the careers of Checo, you know? Of Hulkenberg. Like, there have been some people that just keep on trucking along.
I mean, Checo was only 33.
Yeah, but he was racing when he was so young. Like, he was racing in 2014, 2012.
That's true.
Like, he had a long career.
He did, in fact. Okay. I've got 2 more headlines.
Oh, no.
Okay, we'll go with the weird one first, and then the fun one last. All right. Saudi Arabia wants to buy an F1 team, according to Prince Khalid. I cannot say the rest of his name.
Of Saudi
Prince
Arabia.
Khalid bin Sultan Al Abdullah Al Faisal. I think that's correct.
Good try. I don't know. It sounds good.
Okay.
The Prince of Saudi Arabia.
I don't think he is biologically the prince.
I mean,
I think he was appointed prince.
Anyways, I don't know the government structure over there, but okay.
No, I was just looking. I looked him up today, and it didn't seem like he was born the prince. And I was like, huh. We can appoint princes now. Can we appoint princesses?
Emma, I don't know.
Anyways,
move on. Oh my god.
So yeah, they want to buy an F1 team.
I mean, Bahrain has an F1 team.
Yeah, their investment fund.
Yeah.
And Saudi Arabia, because of Aramco and one of the other companies that invests in Aston Martin, they want to, they've seen the success in F1 with those companies. And so if the option comes, they want to be able to buy an F1 team. I did see comments on the Aston Martin article that people were like, everything is saying that Stroll is going to sell the team, which I don't think so. With all the Adrian Newey and the Honda stuff, I would be surprised. But if Stroll were to sell the team with his relationships with Aramco and Saudi Arabia already, it would make perfect sense for Saudi Arabia to buy Aston Martin.
Yeah, I can see. I mean, deals like that aren't going to happen overnight.
No.
I can see the Strolls being involved for another like 2-ish years, if that is true. You know my thoughts on Lance. I have no beef, no ill will towards the guy. I just kind of forget you exist. You're just kind of there. And that's okay, because I'm probably like that too in a crowd. But I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, does the kid even like it anymore? Or is he just there because his dad owns a team?
It might be a mixture of both.
Which is okay. You know, that happens. But yeah, out of all the teams, I feel like Aston Martin would make the most sense. Like, once Lance is out of the team, I feel like it's like, why?
Once Lance is ready to retire, I think that is when Lawrence will sell the team.
Yeah, because I can't see Lance wanting to be involved in like the strategy or the team principal side of things.
No.
So.
But yeah, that is the potential. They also were talking about in that article that Saudi Arabia would prefer to be the first or second race of the season. And they were like, that would be better with our weather. And when I was looking at it, a lot of the part of the article was like, we did have this race earlier in the past, but it interrupted Ramadan, and so it made no sense to have it during Ramadan, so we pushed it back. But now they're like, no, we actually want it first. So it's interesting.
It also always makes me chuckle when certain places want to be in a certain spot on the calendar.
Like Abu Dhabi,
Australia to a little bit, Bahrain, like all that stuff. It makes me laugh because I'm like, guys, like, again, I just think you should follow the map of the world and go from the most
that
easiest.
makes the most sense.
But
go Australia, Japan, China.
Yeah, like you guys just did.
And then to the Middle East. I think Qatar and Abu Dhabi should be around here. Mm-hmm. I don't think we should be doing them at the end of the year, but what am I? I think Singapore should be around now.
You hit all of Europe, and then you hit North America, South America.
You could just end it in the U.S. and then in South America.
Can you imagine if they ended up at Coda or like Brazil?
That would be great.
That'd be crazy.
That would be great.
Anyways.
F1, if you're listening. I know you have multi-billion-dollar deals with some of these places, but I think we might be onto something.
Yeah, food for thought.
Yeah. My last one is fun, and I actually was going to do potentially like a whole feature on just this, but then I was like, I would be talking for like 2 minutes. Lewis Hamilton's Vogue cover for the Met Gala.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's amazing.
It's fantastic. Okay, so obviously none of y'all know me personally, so you don't know this about me, but I religiously watch the Met Gala every single year for the red carpet. I know that it's
This
giving.
wasn't a thing we grew up doing, by the way. Like, I didn't realize until I started living with her that she does this. Um, yeah, I didn't know this about you for like a while. Like, when did this start?
At
In college?
probably, yeah.
Yeah. Because we never watched
Like
it.
8 years ago, I'd say in college, I
Okay.
started doing
Yeah.
this. Well, I do it because I think it's fun. A, I love to judge. But then B, I also love fashion, as I'm wearing a workout set from Amazon right now. But also, I watch it because I enjoy fashion, but I also recognize the wealth disparity and how disgusting it kind of is. But I do think it's important to give to museums. Museums are a really important public education
We've been going
resource.
to the Met since we were
And
babies.
without the Met, that would be a massive public education resource that would be lost for New York City residents.
And if you can't go to a massive museum, go to the little local art one in your town. Go support local.
Yes. And so, the Fashion Institute, as we all know, is what puts on the Met Gala every year. Anna Wintour kind of heads it. Issues with her, but whatever. And so this year, I'm a little afraid that there are going to be some people that are going to take the theme and do a really poor interpretation of it. So, for those of you that don't know, the theme is super fine tailoring black style, aka like black dandyism. There just could be some people that take this in a really wrong way, and I'm a little nervous for it, but we shall see.
I have to hope, and here's the thing. One, the celebrities themselves very, very rarely make the fashion decisions.
Yeah, it's usually the
designers,
designers.
the houses that they're
Well,
getting
and the
their clothes
designer
from.
invites them to. So the designers buy the tables and then invites the people to their table, and they will be dressing them because they're sitting at their table. And their guest list, the ones that the designers are inviting, has to be approved by Anna Wintour.
Yeah, so I definitely feel like there's a safety net, but I agree with your concern. I mean, camp is the perfect example for anyone that.
Most of the time, they just don't know how to understand the theme.
Yeah, so I definitely think that there is a possibility for some
It could be
craziness.
really bad. But the reason why Lewis Hamilton was on the cover of Vogue for this is because
He's
he
one
is
of the
one of the
hosts.
hosts. So there's usually about 4, sometimes 5 celebrities that are
The
chosen
chairs.
as the chairs, the hosts of the Met Gala. So this year it is Lewis Hamilton, which I think was a great decision. Coleman Domingo also makes a lot of
Mhm.
sense. ASAP Rocky also makes a
Mhm.
lot of sense, and Pharrell Williams. They all make a
Mhm.
lot of sense. And I think LeBron James is going to be doing something. I can't remember. It was one of the well-known basketball players is doing something as like a guest host, even though they're all guest hosts kind of. But I think that this could also be this exhibit is going to be one of like the best ones because I think it's
Yeah.
coming at the perfect time and I think it's going to be really educational. So, if you have the opportunity to go see this exhibit, please do.
Yeah. The one last year, Sleeping Beauties, was incredible. I think it's one of the, if not the best one that they've done so far. And Lewis was actually at the Met Gala last year, and I think everyone should go and look at the interview where he explains the aspects of his the clothing that he wore, including the, I think it was a poem or an image of I
It
think
was a
one of
poem
like and it was like about
written
or written
by the like first
black
black
gardener,
gardener in
the
in the
UK.
UK, I think it was. Yeah.
And it was just like, it was that moment where me and Emma kind of both knew, like, and we've known, I mean, everyone that has been watching F1 knows, like, Lewis and fashion go hand in hand, but I think the amount of in-depth research that he did for every detail in his outfit last year at the Met Gala just, like, I don't even know how to prepare for what he's gonna do.
I know. I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I wonder what designer he's gonna work with. Probably
I know the
Louis.
host gets to kind of choose who
Do you
they.
think it's Louis Vuitton? I feel like he's always doing stuff with Louis Vuitton.
I think he does have a partnership with them, so it could be that.
But I could also, it would be really
It could be
cool.
Ferrari, to be honest.
It could be Ferrari, but it would also be really cool if, like, because I feel like this would be so Lewis if he like spotlighted some up and coming young like person of color in the UK, like a really young designer, but I don't know how any of that works.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah. Well, we are going to get into our final thoughts now. Something I forgot to mention when we were talking about Lewis 2 seconds ago was in 2021, he was the first time that he bought the table himself and invited a bunch of upcoming black designers.
Okay.
He did that again in 2024. I'm not sure if he did it in 2022 and 2023.
Was he invited? He might not have been there.
I don't think he was there.
Yeah, like, because they don't go every year.
Yeah. And I don't know if a race is going to be that first weekend. But I mean, a race was the weekend before this past year, and he flew to the Met Gala to go to it. I do wonder if any of the F1 drivers will be invited because Lewis is a chair.
Dude, if Charles is there, I don't care about Charles. If he brings Alexandra, she's gonna look amazing.
Oh, 100%.
She's gonna be a fairy princess. It's gonna be amazing.
She's going to look fantastic.
Any of them. Any of
the wags.
Yeah.
The men, whatever. The wags will be fantastic.
If Charles goes, he'll have baggy dress pants on. That man loves a baggy pant right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than the skinny jeans he was wearing, so it's progress.
Yeah.
He just went a little too far in one direction.
Yeah.
Reel it back in for sometimes. Anyways, any more final thoughts?
I'm excited.
I do like Jeddah. It's a fun track.
Is a fun track. It's another one that's going to be filled with action. It's not an older one, so I definitely think there's going to be probably lots of craziness again because it's anyone's game at this rate.
This is the race that Carlos was out last year because of his appendix, and Ollie Behrman filled in and did really well. He got, I think it was 7th place on his debut. And so I think Ollie is one of the only ones who has like experience in an F1 car in this track for the rookies. Yeah.
It'd be cool to see a rookie high up on, maybe on the podium, but high up in the points.
This is a fast track from what I recall. Yeah. It's very, very fast. So
the good thing is that we're at the end of a triple header. Everyone kind of, I feel like it's a good end to the triple header, Jeddah.
Yeah.
But I feel like everyone needs a little bit of a break.
Are we in Europe after this?
I don't know. Let me double check. Well, I don't have internet right now on my phone.
It's whatever.
Anyways.
I think we're in Europe after this. Maybe. Maybe we're in Miami?
I don't know.
I have no idea. But anyways, the race this weekend is a little bit later than usual, even more so than this past weekend in Bahrain. This race is at noon Central Time, which is a little crazy, but it's whatever. It is on Easter.
For those that practice. For those that don't, it's just a Sunday.
It is just a Sunday.
But, yeah. Our mom will be going to church, and we'll be watching F1.
We keep making a joke that
F1 is our church, and
Mom is not enjoying that.
We know you don't enjoy it, Mom. She listens to every single one, guys.
Anyways, I think that is all for today. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow, do all the things. Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.